recording is up, and then I will just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about here, and we can get started.
No worries.
All right, so the first kind of step I would be taking here, snap man, they do okay. There we go. First step I'd be taking here is probably taking their high ground, because this would kind of set us up in good positioning to begin the fight. Whereas like as of the moment, right, we're how many seconds from capping? 14 seconds. Is point really like a necessity at the moment?
Yeah, no, not
Yeah,
really.
not really, and it's not even really like super advantageous positional wise. So the only reason why we would like come to point is if we're trying to fight over a point, but we don't need to do that yet. I probably say you probably want to like I said before, take the high ground above them because then that means that we can kind of tickle them from above, drop on them from above. It gives us an escape option to be able to jump back up to high ground. Generally speaking, high ground's just fantastic positioning, and that would just be a really easy thing to take here. We can go more in depth on it as it comes along, but just to start off, that'd probably be my first note. Leap left past him a little bit there.
Yeah, my leaps are not great. I actually kind of fall right off the map later.
Unfortunate. Just to check real quick, because I guess just to check, are you familiar with how to short jump?
No.
No, okay. Why don't we cover that really quickly? Because that is probably one of the most important techs that you can know on Monkey.
Okay.
Because you're gonna basically once you figure it out and you know what it is and how to do it, because it's pretty simple, you're gonna be basically using it like a third or a fourth of every single jump you ever make.
Oh
So
wow.
it's pretty important to do. Okay. So basically, if I start right here, normal jump, come to here, right?
Right.
If I am wanting to attack someone, land on top of somebody who is closer than that, or if I'm trying not to go off the edge or things like that, what I can do is instead of pressing nothing or pressing W, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my S key or my backspace button while I'm jumping, and this will actually pull me backwards so that I'm not going all the way over there, I'm jumping here instead. Right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Cool.
this is going to be handy in just landing on top of people, having much more control over it. Because now I can, land anywhere from here to there just by pressing S key. This is
Mhm.
also going to be really helpful when you are using your ultimate. I'll show you that in a minute once I actually farm up ult here. But you need to be able to know how to do that to effectively juggle people. Because oftentimes what will happen is if you don't short jump in your primal, you'll
Push them
smack
away.
some. Yeah, yeah. Well, you'll smack somebody and then you'll actually leap past them. You'll go too far. Is
Yeah.
will happen. Um, so if you're trying to extend your jump, you can hold spacebar, and this will add a little bounce at the end, so you actually go further if you hold spacebar.
Okay.
Um, if you're, of course, this one you're probably aware of, but just make sure the angle upwards, especially if you're trying to get verticality. But this also gets you some horizontal. If you're aiming diagonally, so it'll get you horizontal distance as well. So notice on now we're even further. Right, so that's just to extend the distance and also to shorten the distance. Let's see if I can get your ult real quick. That all makes sense, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, alright. Farming.
So I do have one question
Mm-hmm.
on Monkey. What we do a lot in like the team is a lot of rush comps.
Yep.
So we'll play the Orisa or we'll play the Rhine. But we've been trying to do better with our dives.
Mm-hmm.
I used to play a lot of Diva, but I wanted to just because Monkey seems fun right now. I wanted to get some practice in on him.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I'm noticing that I don't know if it's like a me thing or if it's just how I'm supposed to position myself when we're calling out targets, especially in dive, right? So if I
Mm-hmm.
have like a Tracer or a Genji with me, and I'm like, okay, I'm jumping on Ana or whatever.
Yep.
When I jump, like, would you recommend? Because what I'm finding myself is I'll jump into the fight, get absolutely melted, and not have any like
Mm-hmm.
escape, right? So like, should
Yep.
I position myself more on like teetering closer to them and then just fall on them to have my jump
So
available,
what
or
you're talking about right now is, I guess, real quickly, because that can get a little. We'll go over into that in a second, but
yeah,
I'll finish the last like real quick demonstration of the tech, and then we'll get into that because what you're talking about is soft diving versus hard diving.
okay,
Um, but really quickly, if I'm just gonna primal and I smack someone and I smack and then jump, well, watch how far I just went. But if I
right,
smack them and then do a back and then kind of do a backspace jump, well then I can keep up with them and stay on top of them. So when
gotcha.
you're leaping with people and you're primal, you're trying to juggle them around. It's kind of crucial to know just how to do a short jump so that you're not leaping past the person.
Yeah, that is huge because usually with my
Mhm.
primal, I just try to throw them in a corner
Yeah, and
and
that's
keep them back.
that's definitely even better. Like if you can throw people in the corner, that's the best option because then you don't miss no matter what, and they can't get away, right?
Right.
So yes, that's
Yeah,
still
that's
do
good.
that.
That's good. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So to continue on your question, right? Hard diving versus soft diving. There's a difference between the two, and they're not, one's not better than the other. It's just gonna depend on the circumstance. But essentially, it's gonna like the difference between the two is in terms of aggression. Of are you going in super hard with the intent of getting an elimination using your abilities, whereas soft diving a lot of the times is a much softer aggression where you're still going in, but you're going in a fashion that allows you to disengage much easier, where maybe you're not using all of your abilities, where maybe you're not going in necessarily with the pure intent of kills. Let's kind of separate them a little bit here. Soft diving, a lot of the times, I'll demonstrate how to do it, but soft diving, sometimes you might not even need bubble for. It's the purposes of it is that you're soft diving in to create space, to get ult charge, to get in damage, and maybe open up for an opportunity to get a kill. To basically just create pressure and push card and things like that, or to on the adverse if you're defending to contest card or contest point, you can soft dive. And soft diving is, I would say, oftentimes a skill that lower tier dive tanks won't understand because they kind of feel like it's all hard dive. So like they'll, whereas the hard dive is the adverse where we're going. Okay, I'm leaping in, I'm bubbling, and I'm just getting in on top of them using all my abilities, going into the back line, and that's very committed. It's like like I've been saying, it's hard. Whereas a soft dive, some of the methodologies behind it is using high grounds. Because, for example, if they're up on let's say they're up on the high ground and we're soft diving up, I can jump up, tickle them for a minute. I could use bubble, that'd be fine, or I could even just not use bubble, tickle, contest. But then as soon as I'm feeling pressured, all I have to do is just hop off the edge, and now I'm perfectly, I'm pretty much perfectly safe because I can just get heals. I'm out of their line of sight. If they drop to contest me, then by this point I probably have leap again to leap away. So that would be more of a soft dive. You can also do this the adverse way, where let's say we have high ground control and they're on the low ground. Well, if I'm soft diving, I don't need to use my jump to get on top of them. I can jump in, like I said before, may or may not use bubble, contest, shoot, and then just as soon as I feel pressured, like I'm gonna get it, like if I'm low or gonna get stunned, then I just leap back up to the high ground, and now what are they gonna do to me now?
Right.
Right. So that's the kind of the skill of soft diving, and soft diving essentially will come at any point that you're trying to exist and do things when hard diving is not an opportunity, and then you will hard dive when you do have opportunities for it. So you hard diving, you do get committed on let's say somebody's out of position, right? Somebody's off there by themselves versus with the team, right? We can hard dive them, commit to the commit to the dive because there's no threat still. You can hard dive if you have full team support. So if it's you and your Genji and your Tracer and your supports can see you, well, maybe you might be able to sustain through a dive if it's with a full team commitment, right?
Right.
Or if you have Primal, right? That's another opportunity, right? Because we can go in and we have that get out of jail free card, so now we can keep going, keep it engaging, and that's kind of hard diving versus soft diving, and when you should be doing either. Do you feel like that kind of answers the question a little bit, or is there anything more?
No. That like that. How do I put it? I think that is if you see it in the replay to kind of
Mm-hmm.
find where I should soft and hard dive, because I feel
Sure.
like that's my big thing,
Mm-hmm.
knowing when to fully commit um
Mm-hmm.
into the fights, because like I feel like, especially now, as because there's one tank, I'm like, okay, if I hard dive here into the back line and start messing up and I fall, well, my team's without the tank, so I really
Yeah.
should pull back, or
Mm-hmm.
I really should. So like when I should do
Yeah,
either one.
exactly. Yeah, for sure. We'll go over that. A lot of the times, you'll find that hard diving will come as the fight, like more and more as the fight progresses. Because at the beginning of the fight, usually there are less opportunities than like more so mid fight, because that's when they'll slip up and make a mistake. Some people are low HP, people are out of position. You finally charge up primal. You know, things like that. Whereas the beginning of the fight, a lot more is gonna be soft diving. Another
Gotcha.
method as well would just be like just walking up using cover, and then just walking into them and then leaping backwards when we're contested, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Would be another option, though not as great. Of course, is like the high ground one.
Okay. That makes sense.
Now arriving at ready for battle.
Yeah, I'm turning up.
Yeah. So there we kind of let right past them. Yeah, we're going on these guys. Okay. Immediate thing I'm noticing is that we're spending a lot of time looking at Hog. And we can, you could go into it now, but generally, but like I guess for the moment I'll mention it, and then maybe we can go in depth if I continue to see it. But generally speaking, tanks aren't going to be what we want to spend our whole game shooting at and focusing at, especially when they're the hardest things to kill. So therefore, we probably don't want to spend this entire fight looking at Hog, especially when we're on a character like Monkey who does not do very high amounts of damage.
Right.
Okay, good kill. Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's right. Well, now that I know the short jump, maybe I won't do that anymore.
Yep. Once again, probably should just be setting up for high ground so we can kind of soft dive and just drop down on them, that sort of thing. But it looks like our team's kind of holding forwards here, so maybe. But once again, I'd still be on high ground because, for example, we could be on like the bridge here.
Yeah.
That would still work just fine.
The data states I'm in the zone.
Oh, watch
Oh,
it!
yeah,
Watch our
we can
trees.
You're safe with me.
Okay. We will talk about another techie thing in a minute. Trying to, because I don't want to have to go back to the training range like right now. See if I can find some other things.
Okay.
There we kind of like fully disengaged when our team is kind of still in there fighting the fight. So just be careful about that, because here we go we're in, we back, and then we hear Reaper Blossom right there, and we can kind of see that their entire team's over here. And then we kind of drop on this other side, and then we kind of wander around for a little bit. So just spending a lot of time out of the fight there, disengaging, make sure we're kind of participating. We'll talk. Yeah, okay. I'll save that for when we go back to the training range. But we're gonna go over a lot more on your right click and how to use it a little bit better, and different things with that. Okay, nice. I'm noticing that a lot of our bubbles are being not really used too well. Like for example, I mean, like this one's hopefully it's pretty obvious where we use it pretty much after we kill him. And then that means, of course, it's just wasted. Oh, sorry, apologies, phone going off in the background there.
You're good.
But yeah, just making sure we're not using it after we've killed people. Generally speaking, try not to just kind of plop it down in place without purpose. Like this is pretty much the same thing. You use bubble in a very similar way to how you use most other shields, like Ryan's shield, like Sigma's shield. Except for it's probably even slightly more important to use it properly because of such a long cooldown on it, and you can't just like you plop it up and then pull it back, pull it down and then put it up and then pull it down and then pull it up. You have 11 seconds, 12 seconds between each of those options. So therefore, you want to make sure you're using it extra careful. That's not to say that you don't use it often. I just want to make sure it's getting used properly. So how do you use it properly? You're basically going to use your bubble against basically when it's needed against high value targets. So for example, you're going to use bubble when you're blocking important abilities, not every ability, but important abilities, and then also you can use it to block ultimates. You can use it to block high amounts of burst damage if you feel like your team's going to die. The important one to watch for is danger for you or your team. Danger does not always mean low HP because, you can be 1 HP and around the corner and perfectly safe, but you can be full HP and right next to a Diva Bomb and very much in danger. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But at the same time, health bars usually do affect danger level. They do impact it. So pay attention to their teammates' health bars. Pay attention to their danger level. How many people are looking at them? How many people are shooting at them? How many abilities and their ultimates are being flown in their direction? Are they close to cover? Etc. 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 Do you have healers? There's going to be a lot of factors that go into it, but the long end and short of it is don't use it when none of those apply. When it's just like, if you just have Hog shooting a shot or two into you, if it's just Soldier doing some spam, you're not going
Right.
to necessarily need to bubble against every single railgun shot, right? Because is going to have more of those than you do of bubbles. But maybe if she's ulting, then sure, head go and plop it.
Gotcha.
Also, last thing is you can also use it when you're getting really aggressive and jumping into them because this cuts. Once again, it does all the above. That's when you jump in. That's when you're in danger. It also cuts them in half and makes it so they can't heal each other and isolates them. That sort of thing. But does that all make sense?
Yes.
Yes, I'll try to show you where like we're maybe messing up with those. Be careful. Just use some cover if you're trying to dodge out hook. Just be careful with it. Maybe even like at this point they have to come to us. This would maybe be an okay situation to just plot bubble, because they're kind of slowly trickling in, and that just would help our team brawl on point.
Okay.
Defense is a good
I'd say maybe try to. Generally speaking, you don't usually want to combine primal with nano. I try to maybe use them like one then the other. That extends in a lot of cases your durability during the fight. It means that you're gonna have much more sustain and stay alive for a longer period of time. And then oftentimes it just works like consistently wise as well. It's like instead of trying to stack two like it's not like when you nano monkey, what you're getting is kind of that consistent damage, and when you primal, it's still kind of like the same consistent damage as if you were shooting at people, you're probably going to be able to melt them the same.
Hmm.
But you just kind of get that over a longer period of time. So essentially, if I would just usually wait because it elongates the amount of time that you're going to have more consistent value. Does that like kind of make sense? Maybe that wasn't articulated the best, but
No,
um,
I think I get what you're saying.
yeah.
Man down.
All right. All right. We're in between rounds, and we also swapped off monkey. So why don't we go over that last thing
Yeah.
here? Go over your right clicks, and then we'll be over on Orisa now, I think. So with your monkey, right clicks, couple different things. I'd probably say like 3 different things. Firstly, make sure you know your range. I don't think this one wasn't too big of a deal, but I think it's important just because like some people don't even know what the range is. Notice how they're not taking damage from here. That's because it doesn't have an infinite range on it. So we'll keep going here. When do they take damage? Oh, 30 meters is the range on it. So just kind of make sure you understand that range. You're not trying to do it on people when they're outside of it, just because it's not going to do anything. Then besides that, note that you will do more damage the longer you charge it up. I am pretty certain. So if I just do a tap, look at the damage it did versus the damage it did.
Right.
Right? I'm noticing we're doing a lot of the tippity taps. Like we'll tap it and do this, and we'll kind of do that. You're not really going to be doing a whole lot if you're just kind of tippity tapping it. So make sure we're charging it up fully. But then once it reaches a certain point, like with Hanzo and Symmetra, once you get to a certain point, then it's just holding it. It's no longer charging it up. Same thing as Zenyatta as well. Once you reach a certain threshold, then it's no longer charging it up. If you need to practice that, I'm pretty sure you should be able to enable. Let's see. You should be able in crosshairs. You should be able to enable show accuracy, and that will show when. Yep, there you go. It'll show you when it's fully charged up, depending on what crosshair you have. So that's something you can try if you feel like if you need it, but that's up to you.
Okay.
Then final thing is combo this. Combo this with your dives is the big thing I would say. Pretty much whenever you have the opportunity, whenever you are able, you should be charging this up as you're leaping at somebody, because this adds to your burst damage. It adds to the amount of damage you can do in it. The more damage you do over a shorter period of time, the more likely someone is to die. That's why that is hopefully it's as simple as that, right? The faster you kill them, the less time they have to get away, to get healed, to get around the corner, to use abilities, etc. More damage, more likely to get the kill. So instead of leaping in and then shooting at them, what we want to do is we can start charging it and leap in. So we're landing in, and look how much damage I did, and I haven't even shot at them yet.
Wow.
Notice how you can do. I also don't know if you know this, but you can animation cancel in a melee as you land on somebody. So notice how. So you do know that one.
I do know that one.
You know that one. So combo all 3 together. That's what I just did there. So look at his health bar, right? Full HP, charge it up, leap in, combo all those together. That's how much damage we do when we land on them. And in comparison to
Just landing.
that it's a big difference. That was a melee canceling on that, right? The massive difference. We're gonna be able to shred people really fast if we're getting that down. Whereas I didn't see that at all. So just charge it up, and then you're gonna be able to just kill people much faster.
Okay, cool.
Dudes.
Now arriving at
Ready for battle. Wicked. Hey.
Uh-oh. Just gotta be careful of them. Pay attention. Keep your eye on them. That's an awareness thing. Good.
Yeah, I think for next fight, I don't know if I do it, but I think I tried to do it. I try to keep Fortify up, like as an option as soon as I saw him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right. My priorities are like I'm putting in damage, but I think I'm putting in damage to the wrong people.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Well, so when it comes to target priority, like who should you be shooting at? Generally speaking, you have two different things, like two different points that you want to think about. You want to think about who's the easiest to kill, and then who's the highest value target to kill. Generally speaking, as of the current moment, who has the biggest ability, not the best character, not to say that that it's a character that, that is just outclasses every other character, but like generally speaking, as of the current moment, who has the highest potential for burst value in the game out of the
Hmm.
different roles, sorry.
Out
Tank,
of
DPS,
everybody,
support. I would I would
Echo?
I would general so yeah, sorry, I was saying more so talking about the roles in specific. um
Oh, gotcha.
Ju
Tanks.
Tanks, yeah, exactly. Tanks is basically, it's a two-in-one kit now. You have a lot of ability to do things on tanks, right? You not only create space, but you're doing elims and damage comparable to DPS, right? And in fact, you're often out times out DPSing DPS at this point. Um, so therefore, sorry, I have little sister running in the room.
You're good.
All right, she's out. So, basically, as of the current moment, tanks high value, they're able to do a lot, right? Next highest, I would say, like I said, not in terms of how like valuable overall, but highest ability to kind of frag out in the moment, I would say is DPS, right? So think, for example, how supports, though they have really insane potential to, like generally speaking, their supports, they have the ability to sustain through fights. They do have really high powered abilities. But, for example, Sojourn's ability to land headshots a lot of times is going to be able to be the most dangerous thing there to your team, whereas anti-nade, though technically more potent, is going to be less it's not going to happen as much in the fight. It's an ability. It's coming out not frequently. So it's kind of hard to think about, but it's not that supports are worse as a class, but that DPS and tanks have the ability to more consistently swing a fight faster.
Okay.
So, therefore, oftentimes, in terms of just value, tanks are highest value to kill, DPS are second highest, supports are trailing very close behind DPS at third. Now, in terms of easiest to kill, tanks are the hardest things in the game to kill. They have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have armor. They have shields and tanking abilities. They're going to be able to get healed the easiest. Overall, you're probably not going to be able to kill them too easily. They're not going to die a ton in comparison to other characters. So, therefore, probably don't want to be spending most of our game shooting at them. Now, that's not to say we can never shoot at them, but we shoot at them when they are low, out of position, if they're the only thing we can shoot at because they're kind of in our face on our screen. If we're attempting, like if they're just doing too much and we're attempting to put pressure on them and make them back up, maybe. But it's gonna be much more situational. We don't want to spend their whole game shooting at them. Then next on that list probably comes support. Supports now, I would say, generally speaking, not all supports, but generally speaking, supports have more survivability than DPS do. Because they just added Kiriko, who is the most survivable support and has the highest amount of escape options out of any support. They just buffed Mercy's movement. Every support now has self healing, which adds to their survivability. Uh, but that's, like I said, that's not to mean that that's true of all supports. Like, for example, who's gonna be easier to kill, a Reaper or Zenyatta.
Zen.
Zen, right? So it's not an end all be all. So generally speaking, if if you come into a fight and everything's normal, DPS first priority, support second priority, tanks third priority. because that's the order of their easy to kill versus value. But if you have opportunities, if you don't have an option to, shoot at the other characters, other targets, and you just want to make sure that when you have the equal opportunity, so you have the equal opportunity to shoot at the soldier or the hog, they're right next to each other. That we're not shooting at hog. That all makes sense.
Gotcha.
So notice here, for example, how we're swapping. Reaper just used Wraith, right? Just used Wraith. Look at it. Look at his health bar here, half HP, and we're turning this corner. And who are we looking at?
Hog.
Hog, right. So Hog is getting healed by people. He's on the other side of the well. He has more health. Overall, just should be looking at Reaper right now. Maybe hitting him with a spear gets a free kill on him because it stuns him and whatnot. Okay. I would probably just say make sure not face tanking Reaper. Especially, I guess, especially because we're kind of ending the halt on the open, and then these guys shred our health down. Maybe we could have E'd sooner there and used our javelin spin sooner. Other thing to be considering here is that it does not seem as though we're using very much cover, which is probably making us take a lot of more extra damage. So we can go more in depth on this if we need to, but for the moment, good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover, and we very much had an absence of cover during this fight, which just means that we're taking a lot of extra damage.
Okay.
That could be avoided very easily.
We will. You want that louder?
Protecting you.
Okay, don't feel like you need to rush your bubbles. Think about who are we bubbling, who's shooting at them, who's looking at them, are they taking damage? Because otherwise our bubble's not going to do anything. Okay, who's shooting at Reaper right now?
Reaper?
Reaper, okay. What range is Reaper as a character?
Pretty close.
Pretty close. What range are they both at?
I mean, medium?
Medium, okay. So is Bubble gonna, are they gonna be doing very much damage?
Not at all.
Not at all. Is Bubble gonna get very much value?
No.
No. And then therefore, not only is it a wasted ability, it's also just not gonna get us any energy either. So, I mean, look at, the only reason why he gets something is because Hog turns the corner, seconds after we've already bubbled and shoots at him.
Right.
Gathering energy.
He gets booped in the well, nice.
Protecting you. Gathering energy.
Okay. Notice how after we bubbled, we backed off into the room. If you have bubble active and you're trying to get energy, make sure you're visible and able to be shot at.
And using it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in the in-between portion right here, this is where we want to be getting. So energy on Zarya. Anytime I'm ever coaching Zarya player, it needs to be emphasized that energy is kind of the lifeblood of your entire kit. But essentially that'll boil down to bubble usage. But if you are not landing good bubbles, you will not have any tanking. If you are not landing good bubbles, you will not have any energy. Energy means you get extra damage. Extra damage means you get more ultimates. Extra damage means you get more kills. More kills and more ultimates means you win more fights. Winning more fights means you win more games. Overall, if you're not landing good bubbles, you're not going to be doing really you're not going to be doing a whole lot on Zarya. Bubbles are a major part of your kit. So right now, when we're in between fights and we're 0 energy, the biggest priority on your mind when you're 0 energy should always be I need energy, right? Because if you don't, then like we said before, then you're not gonna be able to do anything when the fight actually starts. And it's better to come into the fight at medium or max energy than it is to come into the fight at 0 energy. You'd rather start from 100 than start from 0, because when you're at 100, simple question, but when you're at 100, do you need energy?
No,
No. Okay, so what can you do with your bubbles then?
save them
Save them for what?
for when I do need
For
energy
when you
and
do
or
energy.
the tank.
And to tank, exactly. You
Right, right.
can focus more on using your bubbles for actual situations that bubbles are needed, rather than going for pure energy bubbles. You can go for tanking bubbles, the higher energy you are. So overall, right now, notice how we're just kind of sitting around and sitting around, sitting around, right? And then we're looking for somebody else to bubble and sitting around. Whereas what we could be doing is pushing up to here, going pew pew shoot shoot. Hey guys, look at me, and then bubbling when they look at you, and then now you've just got yourself some energy. As well as, because you have 2 bubbles, you could also bubble Reaper when he does the same thing. Make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Pretty decent bubble. Uh-oh, that's probably not the play. Here we kind of go really far in. So we bubble Reaper, but then the issue is that we kind of run into their entire team by ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? So this is a bit of awareness, paying attention to our surroundings. Where's my team at? Where's the enemy team at? If we're doing that,
Right. So when should I just back off and reposition, like go around the little fence thing here?
you shoot at them from here. Like we can shoot at them from here.
More cover.
Pew pew
Okay.
pew, shoot shoot, and then once they rotate right side, then we can rotate right side too to meet them.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
Somehow we made it out. All right, because main thing was that Zarya didn't turn around.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think everyone else is maybe a little bit delayed in turning around. So higher up you go, that'll be punished way faster. And you always want to play as if you're playing against higher opponents. Okay, so we still kind of get punished for it, because Brick chases us down. Unfortunately, we run around the corner from beat. That's not. I don't think that's really something that you could have controlled unless you had already unless you knew that he was beating.
Right.
And so it's a minute detail that's maybe very very advanced, or if you knew he was gonna be, you could have stayed in line of sight of him, or if you're communicating with him, that you could have stayed. But other than that, this is primarily us getting punished for the play that we did 5
The
seconds ago.
positioning. Yeah.
Bring me energy. Much better.
All right, so we used the bubble a minute ago.
Much better.
Okay, notice how we're bubbling before anyone is looking at us here. Right, so they're all looking left side, and maybe Briggan and them look, and we're bubbling. I guess they did kind of look at us there, but no one was as of yet shooting at us. I would just be careful.
And
You know,
bubble as I start to take damage.
yeah, exactly. you wanna because they need to look at you to do damage. So that's the
Right.
first step. But then the second thing is, are they actually damaging? Because they could be looking at you and just looking at you. Usually as well, there's reaction time as plays a factor in it as well. If they've just turned, then they're not going to be shooting at you like the moment that they turn. Usually it's turn and then shoot. So overall here, just maybe a little bit of fast bubble. Also watch shooting at their bubble. And then we bubble a second time here. Notice that after we bubble a second time, once again, notice how we back up around the corner. So that now they can't really, none of them can really shoot at us too well. So make sure that we're backing out after the bubble's over, not before the bubble's over.
Okay.
In fact, a lot of the times when you have bubble, you don't want to sprint into their team with it, but a lot of times you can play more aggro when you have bubble, because that does two things. It firstly capitalizes off of the bubble, where you can get more aggro, more space, shoot at more things, be able to possibly capitalize and get a kill. Two, it also encourages them to shoot at you more, because the more you're in their face, the more they want you out of their face.
Right.
Good bubble. Grab her in the sky. Oh wait, never mind. You're not 99. I thought they were. I thought you guys were 99 for a second. Blue versus red got me mixed up.
That's the play, though.
That is the dominance assertion play. All right, so here once again, notice how in between fights, 0 energy, 2 bubbles. This is once again, even if you were max energy, you still want to be pushing up towards, if you have your team with you. Of course, if you don't have your team, regroup, that takes priority. But if you have your team with you, push up towards the front so that we can right now we need to actually gain energy, but you also want to maintain energy if you have energy, especially now that it decays faster. If you end the fight at 100, by the time the fight starts, actually I don't know what you'd have. Maybe what would you have? Maybe 50, 60, something like that.
Better than 0.
Yeah, better than 0, but wouldn't it be better if you push forwards and maybe get a bubble in? Now you can start off the fight at 100 rather than 50, right? 50 is better than 0, 100 is better than 50. So here could be going for it. So we did do it, maybe slightly on the later end. By now, so a couple things. Firstly, by now, we could have maybe already gotten 2 bubbles in, which means some more energy. Also, that means that we have more time to let them recharge for when the fight actually starts. Because if preferable, if possible, we want both energy and bubbles. We don't want to have to fight, like, if at all possible, we don't want to have to start the fight out with 0 bubbles. That's not great. That's not what we want to be happening.
Okay. And you actually just answered the question I was about to ask, because that's what happens a lot to me. And I think you can see why. I'll have either one. So like as soon as I'm really high energy, because I just used both my bubbles, I have no bubbles and I die.
Yeah. So being able, knowing how to maintain it and get it in between fights is going to be a useful skill. And doing it earlier would be better. Making sure you're not playing as, adjust your aggression. But I don't think we're gonna have time for it now. But so we can't really go fully into aggression scaling, but adjust your aggression based upon your partially your bubbles, right? If you have bubbles, you are able to push. If you do not have bubbles, you are not able to push as aggressively, because then you'll get punished for it and you'll die. Yeah, that's what I would say. Also, if you use your bubbles more, you won't have to pop them for energy as often if you use them better, because you'll be getting more energy and all of that. But yeah, we're gonna exit out here. Do you have any questions so far?
As far as like actual questions, not so much. I've been trying to jot down some notes here on what you've been saying. So just to clarify on the Zarya, just overall play.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my biggest mistake here is I'm bubbling and then not taking advantage of the bubble by immediately going into cover. And it seems to be like the opposite thing with Orisa, where I'm out in taking damage when I shouldn't really be
Yes.
needing to.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna make note of that. I guess my only real question is, I feel like I've been trying to do a lot. So like I'm trying to learn all these things, and I think in the obviously I'll probably book another session if we could talk about the next one, but I'll end up kind of going through the entire lineup of tanks instead of sticking to one. So like, when do you know is a really good, like when to switch? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Firstly, yeah, it's going to depend on the team composition, on the map, because usually certain team compositions are better on different maps, but maybe your team has some preferences. Generally speaking, it might be a good idea to like if you because you don't want to have to like it really depends. I'm going all over the place here, but you don't want to, if possible, try to learn every single tank because there's a lot of them. There's 10 tanks. So it depends on your priorities. If your priority, like you stated, is to rank up, improve, rather than just having fun. If it's to have fun, then play whatever the heck you want to play. But if it's to improve, well, you're going to improve at a faster pace. The less characters you're spreading yourself thin over. So one way to approach this is maybe picking, one character per composition. And then that way you're not having, for example, you're not like stacking. So like you wouldn't, if you're, for dive, you're not learning Diva, Winston, Ball. For Brawl, maybe you're not learning, Jungler Queen, Orisa, Reinhardt, Zarya, but maybe you're looking to maybe narrow it down a bit more and so that you have maybe one or two per. So does that make more sense in like how to narrow it down? Now, what when do you swap? Different maps will be different will be better for different compositions, right? So think, for example, brawly characters are going to be better in close quarters combat areas like Reinhardt and Orisa and Zarya might be better on a map like King's Row.
right,
Versus divey tanks are going to be better on a map with a lot of high ground, such as Watchpoint Gibraltar. And then spammy tanks, such as Sigma Roadhog, they're going to be better on maps with wide open sight lines, such as a map like Junkertown.
then you just answered that question too. um, okay, so what if I need this, like, if we know, because we've ran into this on our last actual game. We were running Brawl. I was on the Orisa, and they were also running, like, the Brawl was working, but it was really, really close to tell. What if I switch within the Brawl section? I mean, when I guess it's like a hard thing to tell without really knowing the situation, but I guess the thing would be, okay, if the Orisa's working, but just enough to sort of get a back and forth going, would it be advisable to try a different brawl and see if that is the thing that pushes us through, or is that kind of if it is kind of working?
You could. The question would come to, like, is it necessarily just that is there actually a better character for the situation, or is it something your team or you could be playing differently to win the fights? Right? That'd be the question. If you feel as though there would be a tactical advantage in swapping characters because the character's better, then feel free to swap characters. But if it's just something you could be doing yourself or you, as a team, then maybe not. You don't necessarily need to swap.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. All right. We are going to quickly approach the end here. We got 5 minutes left. We're going to do a wrap-up review, go over the main points. And then, yeah, you're really quickly. Application is make sure you're focusing on things, actively put it into attention. So if the main thing, I'm just selecting something random. If the main thing is your awareness, think to yourself, awareness. Give yourself constant reminders over it. Make sure that you're not trying to do everything all at once because that'll get overwhelming. Instead, focus on one category of things or 1 to 3 smaller things within a category, and then that'll form it as habits and whatnot. That's the very, very brief version on that because we're running out of time. But does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep. Monkey abilities, leaping, short jumps, other text that I taught you with it, combo right click with it, E, don't plop it for every little tiny bit of damage you see, and just make sure you're using it when it's going to get value, so against, abilities, ultimates, high amounts of damage, danger, when you're leaping in and diving in, etc. Overall, I'd probably say abilities, I think are probably going to be like a medium priority, maybe like higher end of medium for you to work on. Then you have your ultimate. Honestly, I think I saw like 1 primal. Don't combo with the nano boost. Besides that, I don't think there's like too much in ult that I saw. At knowing how to short jump will definitely help with it if you're juggling. Overall, ult usage probably comes out as pretty low. Probably a low to medium, something like that. Zarya, I didn't see any ult. Bubbles are really important. Put effort into them, maintain them in between fights. If you have 0 energy, your highest priority should be to get energy. So use it when people are actually shooting at you. When you bubble, don't immediately duck around the corner. Get a little more aggro. You can get a little bit more aggro when you have bubbles. When you don't, you really can't as much. And just make sure you're putting a lot of effort into getting good bubbles. Overall, that one was probably like a... probably going to be more like a medium high on Zarya.
Okay.
Then moving on, we did Rissa very briefly. Rissa, honestly, we didn't really talk about abilities too much, and we were only on Rissa very briefly. Just make sure, yeah, we didn't see ults. Make sure you're E-ing so you're not taking damage, and then I didn't really see too much else. Make sure you're comboing your abilities. I don't know if you remember this or know this, but just make sure that when you're throwing Javelin that you're connecting someone with a wall, because like Doomfist, you're not going to be doing as much damage if they're not connecting with a wall. And then that's it for Orisa. So moving on to your mechanics, Monkey, right click, charge it up all the way, combo it with your leaps and your jumps. That was really important. Know the range on it. Zarya, not too much with mechanics that I noticed right off the bat. Orisa, not too much I was going to mention. Target priority is another thing within this. Shoot at the easiest and highest value things. You generally speaking, rough order is going to be DPS, then supports, then tanks. But you can shoot at those harder things if they become easy. You have an opportunity to, or you just really can't. They're just in the way. You have no other option. Then, I think that's about it. Overall, put that at about a medium priority for you to work on. Apologies, 1 second. I have a tickling in my throat. Yep, sorry. I'm getting over a cold, and I'm talking really fast. So then we got your positioning. Monkey, take high grounds. High grounds are fantastic. We'll take them. Good positioning is usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Make sure you're not standing smack dab in the middle of nowhere. I think that is mostly it. Don't think we talked about too much else in that. Overall, that was probably like medium, maybe lower end of medium. And then finally, we have your awareness. So we'll do slash aggression. Awareness slash aggression because they're very intertwined. You can't know when do you go in if you're not paying attention to your surroundings. Monkey, soft diving versus hard diving is part of this, right? You soft dive whenever you're not able to hard dive. You use high ground, so you usually try not to use jump if possible. It's playing to be able to disengage. You're going in to create space, and then when you do see an opportunity, somebody's low, whatnot, you go in, get aggro, use we have your ultimate, etc. You're gonna maybe use bubble more often within, whereas you can soft dive without bubble. Usually if you're hard diving, unless it's like on one person, a lot of the time you want bubble because you're being more aggro. Don't go aggro if you're not able to. We can maybe get into that more in the next session. Pay attention to where's your team at, what is their health at, what's their danger level, where is the enemy team at, what are they all up to,
Right.
that sort of thing. Who are they looking at? Who are they shooting at? All of that jazz. Overall, awareness / aggression probably goes to maybe higher end of medium, something like that. So to put that all in order, the ability usage differed slight. I didn't really see too many ults. Ability usage differed slightly per character. Number one, generally, I would say was your. Let's see what did I say was number one. Number one, I would say. Primarily, I'm talking for Monkey and Zarya because I saw them the most. I would say number one came out to your ability usage, just generally. Then probably your awareness / aggression. Then your mechanics. Then your positioning. And then finally ult usage would kind of come last. Orisa's maybe the odd one out where like I didn't really see any abilities, so that one can't really. Wouldn't say that they necessarily come out as top for Orisa.
Okay.
Alright. Any final questions on any of that? If it's like a unrelated topic, then feel free to bring it up next session.
Yeah, no, on what you said, not really. I think that was really good. Thank you. It's
my
definitely
pleasure.
good stuff to work at. Yeah, I was one thing though, if I could ask you about doing the group tutoring or like the
Sure.
group stuff.
Why don't I'll stop